Hiya, in this video we're going to talk about top 4 string chords. So if you've not played these before, these are great if you play in a band, or they can be very useful for solo guitar playing as well. So what are top 4 string chords? So it basically means any chord with the top 4 strings. But what we're going to do, we're going to take the D shape and we're going to make it into a sort of bar chord form. There's a major, there's a minor, there's a dominant 7th. Okay, now if you're used to playing bar chords from the 5th string root and the 6th string root and the 5th string root, these are a great next step. Okay, so how are they useful? So from the, let's say we take the root of E here, I can play a major chord and I can play a minor chord, I can play a dominant chord. Again, in the real world, in a band, I can just play the top part of that triad, knowing that it's coming from my root here. So that's one way that you can use this top 4 string triad idea. It gets really great though where we start to play through the different chord types that you can get. So from the E we can play a major 7, E major 7. We can play an E 7th, E dominant 7th. We can play an E minor 7th, which we can play for different finger positions here. We can do like that across. We can play with individual fingers here. Okay, we could play an E minor 7 flat 5, and we can play an E diminished 7th. Now, as we've got 4 notes now, these are 7th chords. Each note of my chord can be used as a starting note. The note is now in the bass. Okay, so I can have in the E7 we've got E, G sharp, B and D in the chord, and each of those can be used as our bass note, and it creates what's called an inversion. So we've got E7, we've got E7 with the G sharp in the bass, we've got E7 with the B in the bass, we've got E7 with the D in the bass. Okay, so straight away I can use these for comping in a band, in a blues setting, in a jazz setting, even like I say in a pop funk band or something like that. I can use these. I'm using my kind of finger style here, but let's say I had a plectrum. We can create, a sort of different style with these chord shapes. They're very, very versatile. So what I suggest, if you're getting into these top 4 string voicings, a great way to start is with the blues. So we're going to play through a blues in the key of E, and what we're going to do first of all, we're going to play everything root position. So we've got E root position, we'll have A root position, and we'll have B root position. Okay, so find blues in the key of E and play a 12 bar blues using root position chords. Let's just, for example, I always go to Before You Accuse Me by Eric Clapton, the MTV version. It's great for soloing and your chords. So we've got the intro here. Let's just see how we could use these shapes to comp along to the track. So E7, A7 back to E7, A7, E7, B7, A7, E7, B7. Okay. So get used to doing that first of all, and you can even play in different keys. Find blues in the key of A, in the key of G, key of C, that kind of thing. So what happens next then? So if we use these inversions, I can create more interesting chord movements in my comping. So I can play 4 different versions or inversions for E7. I can play 4 different inversions for A7. And here, I can play 4 different versions for B7. Now, how do we learn these to a track? So you could take everything in root position like we just did. How about then take everything in the first inversion, so the third is in the bass. A good way to visualize this, if you know the C chord, which I'm sure you do, and C7, you put your little finger here. Or sorry, that'd be a C7 shape, wouldn't it? So we slide it up, that becomes E7. So as I'm looking down the fingerboard, I'm hitting this E with my eye. And the first inversion here from our top 4 string chord is actually the second note here of my C shape. So there's my starting note, and I play the other same notes, and I just put my little finger here. That's one way of remembering that one. Another way is these 2 fingers here can stay on as we slide to fret 7, and then we put down the fingers here. So we go E7, E7, first inversion, keeping those fingers on. Second inversion is really easy. It's just it's just taken from this E triad here, and you've got the 3 strings in the middle there, and we put on the 7th on the top. And the last one's really easy as well. We've got E7, take it from this bar chord shape here, top 4 strings, barring across, and then we put the second finger here to get the major third, and we've got the last inversion there. Okay. So what you could do next time around in the blues, you play everything as the third inversion. Let's try that. So now I've got to visualise my root here, A here, and I'll do the B here. Okay, so E7, A7, E7, A7, back to E7, B7, A7, E7, B7, back to E7. Okay. Now you could do that with every voicing of the E7 chords. So next time I do this one, that would be for E7. This would be for A7. That would be for B7. And the last one, that's E7, and that would be A7 and B7. Okay. Now, as you get to know these better, like I say, I think the best way to visualize these is to try and visualize them against a low root. So as my eye hits the guitar, I'm looking at the E here, E and there. And then as I come up the guitar, I'm looking at this root here. There's my chord. Next one, I'm looking at this root again from the A-shaped bar chord there, and there's the E there. And then the last one I'm visualizing from this E here. Okay, so this will take time. Might take a few weeks, a few months, to really kind of visualize the shapes against your root. So when I change to the chord of A, my root is here and here. I can visualize the sort of the C-shaped one here. I've got my root position there. I've got my 7th in the bass there, and I've got this one, which is for the open string. Okay, so this is really important how you visualize. Now, as you progress, you'll find another inversion under your fingers. So there's E7. I go to A7, right there. E7 again. What if I go to E7 here? I've got A7 right under my fingers. I go to A7 here, or A7 there. I've got an E7, my right under my fingers there. What about B7? Right under my fingers there. A7 here, and then E7 here. Okay? So let's say I do a simple version like that. The next time round I'll do a more complicated version, so you can see where you could take it. I'll also add some slides in, some movement, which is something you can do and adds, colour to your comping, right? So this could be a basic version now of going from the next nearest, going to the next nearest voicing. So here we go, E7, A7 under my fingers, back to E7. I'm going to change to the next E7, so I've got time, A7, I've got time to get to another one, A7, E7, E7, B7 here, A7 there, and E7, B7. That's a little bit more complicated. Okay, so that's a little bit more complicated. So you can take it as far as you want to. So let's go back to what I mentioned about the E major 7, the E dominant 7th, the E minor 7, the E minor 7 flat 5, and the E diminished 7th. Now these have all got their own inversions. So a major 7 is really, really nice. You've got this one, you've got this one, you've got this one. Oops, a bit harder that one. Okay, so just imagine the flexibility that you've got over the fingerboard if you know these inversions. Let's say I had an E major 7 to E to an A minor 7, for example. That's just again an example of going through the inversions of the fingerboard. Apply that to say some jazz standards or some really nice pop stuff like Norah Jones, and you've got a lot of versatility and freedom and flexibility. So I hope that's been useful. Check out your top 4 string voicings, and it's going to really improve your level in band situations, and also working with a duo or singer, something like that. All right, hope that's been useful. Bye for now.